engines have ignited. The thrusters are going to be going through those different stages that Gregory was speaking about. Look at that blaze, it's just phenomenal. You can actually see the vibrations. And there we have it, liftoff of OneWeb's Launch 7. Look at it shooting up there, moving at phenomenal speeds. How are you feeling, Maurizio?
This is phenomenal, as you said, Georgia. I'm sure I share the feelings of all my colleagues when I say that I'm so excited right now. And along this, there's underlying tension keeping us all on our toes and keeping us really focused. Right now, you're seeing the boosters doing all the hard work, pushing us against the Earth gravity. They're going to burn in just less than 2 minutes, 1 minute and 58 seconds.
Absolutely, and it's quickly shot under cloud cover there. We can see some onboard cameras of it still moving. How fast is it actually going right now?
So the rocket is constantly increasing its speed through different stages of the ascent. The final orbital velocity will be around 7.6 kilometers per second, not per hour, but per second. Right now, the satellites are experiencing an acceleration of about 5 Gs, which is similar to riding an extreme white-knuckle roller coaster.
That's a seriously extreme roller coaster.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. We're launching also, important to say, in plane 3 tonight of our constellation. There's a long way to go, but also important to say that by the end of the day, we're going to have deployed more than 1/3 of our constellation. So 4 hours journey before all the 36 satellites are released from that.
So this is the start of that 4-hour journey ahead of the satellite. Gregory, can you explain how you're getting that information that we're seeing on screen at the moment from the rocket?
Yeah, absolutely. I explained to you what is the role of our colleagues in charge of the telemetry. I can confirm that the telemetry is okay and everything is nominal for the moment. I can come back on a short moment you've experienced just a few seconds before the launch, what we call the ignition sequence. So we had a progressive increasing of the thrust level, actually. You experienced it. The goal of this progressive sequence is to make sure that the engines work normally. So we go from 20% of full power, 11 seconds before liftoff, to full thrust level at liftoff time H0. That was impressive.
It was really impressive, and it's so exciting to watch, and delightful that it's been a successful liftoff. But of course, this is just the start of the journey, as Maurizio was saying. Maurizio, can you talk us through what those next stages are?
So we've just seen the booster separation. So we are obviously seeing it live, and we don't need the boosters anymore. This is all part of the plan. We are shedding unnecessary weight.
Brilliant stuff. And Gregory, when do we reach maximum acceleration? And is that a very particular point? Is it important?
Yeah, absolutely, Georgie. This is critical. This is actually the job of the first stage of our Soyuz rocket, is to get the launch vehicle away from the Earth. So it is needed to provide a maximum acceleration level from the very moment of the liftoff, actually. So the first stage, which consists in 4 boosters arranged around the central core, it's called the bundle, and it weighs 45 metric tons each. And this bundle is powered by engines. They are called with the lovely and sweet name of RD107A, which produce a total thrust of 340 metric tons at liftoff. Impressive, isn't it?
Absolutely, Gregory, and thank you. And right now there are 36 OneWeb satellites that are sitting on the top of the Soyuz launcher. The fairing is protecting them in the initial phase of the ascent. The fairing has several jobs. It's a shield. Most notably, what the fairing does is protecting the satellites from severe conditions of the launch and the atmosphere. There is acoustic vibrations at liftoff and also friction when the launcher is flying through the dense part of the atmosphere at very high speed. At the present altitude, there's no more atmosphere, so no need to maintain the fairing on the launcher to protect the satellite. So the launcher will be soon liberated from this dead weight as well. And if you could see the satellites right now, you would notice that they are attached to a central dispenser in a configuration that resembles a corn kernel. Each of them having a truncated pyramid configuration that maximizes the number of satellites inside the fairing itself. But we are now at the end of the second stage phase.
Brilliant. So, Gregory, can you talk us through what the next stage is then?
Yeah, absolutely. And first, Maurizio just mentioned the fairing. I can confirm it has been jettisoned and separated.
Great
as well
news.
as the first stage. So great news, the launch
Success
is going well.
so far. Yes, it is. It's going very well.
And still, in order to save weight, as Mauricio mentioned, the second stage and the fairing has been separated, and it is now the turn of the third stage to burn for approximately 4 minutes and 30 seconds. So the third stage is powered by one other engine called with one other sweet and lovely name. This one is RD124, and it produces a thrust of 30 metric tons.
Brilliant. So, these stages are clearly really important to the launch. Would you mind, Gregory, just giving us a sort of a summary of the stages that we've seen so far and what we can expect for the remainder of the mission?
Absolutely, Georgie. Happy to. So tonight's mission started with the 4 boosters phase for a duration of about 2 minutes. Then you remember the core stage took the reins during less than 3 minutes, just a few moments after the fairing has been jettisoned and separated. Now, ahead of us, you can see it on the animation, the next step is the separation of the third stage from the nose module, which will occur 9 minutes and 22 seconds after liftoff. What is the nose module? So it includes the upper stage, called frigate, again, the dispenser, which is the structure that gathers the satellites on the launcher, and the 36 OneWeb satellites themselves. The frigate upper stage will start doing its job with the first ignition of its main engine in order to reach the intermediate transfer orbit. This phase will then be followed by a long ballistic phase. And the second ignition will be performed for circularization and injection of the satellites into their separation orbit. So the satellites release sequence will start with, first, the separation of the 4 satellites integrated on the top conical part of the dispenser, and then 8 successive separation of the 32 satellites integrated on the cylindrical part of the dispenser, from the top row to the bottom row, 4 satellites at once. And as illustrated on this 3D animation, it means that 9 separation events are necessary for the complete release of the 36 satellites. And between each separation event, the sequence is identical. 19 minutes, which consists in a series of maneuvers like follow. Firstly, a tilting maneuver of the nose module. Then a boost of the frigate to gain in speed during a few seconds, with the aim to ensure enough distance between the satellites and thus to avoid the risk of a collision. Then a new tilting of the nose module to the required orientation for the satellite separations. And finally, the separation is commanded by the frigate upper stage itself, triggering a smooth separation ensured by the relaxation and specific springs. And the end of this complex release sequence occurs a little bit less than 4 hours after the liftoff with the 9th and last sequence of satellite separation. Easy, isn't it, Georgie?
I'm glad I'm not in charge of all that, but thank you. That was really helpful to just sort of get that overview of exactly what awaits the OneWeb satellites. Now, Maurizio, we've discussed stage 1 and stage 2. Can you talk us through phase 3?
Yes, sure. The launch phase are always extremely exciting, and we're looking forward to confirming stage 3 separation. While waiting for that, let's take a moment to highlight that we're also in the process of deploying our ground network infrastructure, the key elements of which are the satellite access portals. These are antenna farms, as we call them, distributed across the globe. That is a key piece of what will enable the commercial service introduction and continuous connectivity at latitudes above the 50 degrees north by the end of 2021. But now we're coming closer to frigate ignition.
So Gregory, let's go back to you. Can you update us on any progress? Have you heard anything more?
Yes, Georgie. So the third stage is on the way to be separated, and the frigate upper stage is getting ready to switch on its main engine. Just looking at my colleagues to see if the third stage has been separated yet. Not yet. It's coming. I will keep you informed. And so after that, the first step is called the pre-burn phase, and it lasts 55 seconds. So its aim is to give a quick burst of acceleration and hence to push, and I just had the confirmation that the third stage has been separated. So
great. Actually, you can see that on screen as you were speaking. That's really incredible.
Absolutely.
So that's now confirmed.
Yeah, I'm pursuing with the explanation of what's ahead. So the aim of this burn phase is to push the fluids back in the tanks. So just imagine when you suddenly and strongly accelerate your car, you get pinned back against the seat, and that's exactly what will happen here with the fuel in the tanks. So this is the description of the first step of the frigate mission. And this first ignition enables to inject the nose module into an intermediary transfer orbit, which is actually an elliptical orbit. And the duration of this boost is just over 5 minutes. So fingers crossed now, we will be able to confirm the success of this ignition in a few seconds. So stay tuned, folks.
Brilliant. I'm glad it's all going so well. Maurizio, can you talk us through what's going to happen next?
Well, the next phase of the journey is about to start. The frigate is really the smartest part of the rocket with its own brain, and it will execute a series of separations as described by Gregory. This is like a school bus drop-off, as it will release 4 satellites per stop in a series of 9 separations in total. And know that as our celestial bus has only 1 gear, and after each drop-off it becomes lighter, the frigate will have to fire its engine for a shorter period of time after each separation. Once the satellites are released, the onboard computer wakes them up, and the team at the Satellite Operations Center takes control of the satellites.
Brilliant. Well, that is where we're actually going to leave the mission for the time being. So far, so good. Thank you so much, Gregory, Maurizio, and of course, the entire team at OneWeb Satellites and Ariaspace for allowing us to join them live and for all their insights. Really exciting stuff. Well, that's nearly all we have time for. But before we go, Maurizio, as you can expect, we've had quite a few questions coming in from Twitter. People have been submitting them to you. So I thought we'd just quickly finish with you answering some of them. So our first question has come from Jeffrey, and he's asked, how does OneWeb's connectivity work over oceans?
The objective of OneWeb is to deliver fast broadband at a global scale with low latency. And we can do this thanks to our ground network infrastructure that we briefly were mentioning and referring to earlier on. Is essentially a network of antennas that are grouped in antenna farms that ensure that each and every satellite at any point in time throughout the orbit is connected to the ground. And that ensures continued connectivity from a user perspective.
Great stuff. And Antonella wants to know, how does someone buy OneWeb's service? Can you explain how to actually go about ordering it?
It's simple. Just ask your preferred local telecom operator. There are many kinds of OneWeb customers: local communities, global enterprises, telcos, carriers and mobile operators, businesses, and governments everywhere. We aim to be partners of choice for the hardest to reach end users. And we are working with local telecom operators who invest locally, so our partners in Alaska, so that we can connect users at scale. These great distribution partners bring the service to businesses, communities, and end user customers alike. We are not a customer business, so we serve your preferred existing network provider. In this way, it's easier for businesses and consumers. They can use their preferred existing provider with billing and servicing and upgrades and all part of the package they already have.
Great. And our final question comes from Imani, and she had an interesting question about the user device, which is actually something we haven't spoken about in this episode. But can you just quickly talk to us about how it works?
It's called User Terminal. It's a simple, reliable antenna device that connects you, the user, to the internet, no matter where you are in the world. OneWeb's network can be accessed wherever there is direct line of sight to the sky above, from the user terminals itself. You can connect to the internet via the user terminal. It's a resilient, secure, affordable, two-way communication. To enable quality connectivity, we need a new class of LEO user terminal, low Earth orbit user terminal. And we are working with a range of user terminal partners to offer to our customers different sizes and power terminals depending on your needs, the capacity that you required. Small, medium and large enterprises, rural schools and communities, major verticals such as maritime, aviation, enterprise and governments, you name it.
Thank you so much, Maurizio, for those insights.